Hi everyone, welcome back to Reality Recap. Don't forget to subscribe and give this episode a thumbs up. Sister Wives patriarch Kody Brown has said he never really felt love until he married Robyn Brown, his fourth wife. During the May 25th one-on-one special, Kody is said to have told host Sukanya Krishnan that he had always wanted to bring each of the wives to that level and share the same experience with them as he did with Robyn. Janelle Brown, his former wife, replied that it would have been nice if he had told me that. But she too feels Kody is rewriting history. He never talked to me about that, she stated. Meri Brown, though, felt even more strongly than Janelle. Whereas Janelle dismissed Kody's weird assertion with a discreet laugh, Meri didn't mince words. She told Suki, "I don't think it's fair for him to even say that. Are we all just supposed to be Robyn?" Meri went on, "I'm Meri, and I'm sorry, I'm not going to be like Robyn. Does Meri Brown resemble Robyn Brown in any way? According to her, absolutely not." She went on to say that Kody comparing his wives in this way was incredibly unfair. "I'm my own person. I'd rather not be her," she added. "It's great if they get along, but in my opinion, that's a terribly unfair thing to say." Suki then asked, can polygamy be equal yet different? And that, according to Meri, is the real question. Women are not all the same, and relationship chemistry evolves. Suddenly, Kody was intensely bonded to one woman in a way he never had been before, and it obviously shook him up. But he refused, or was unable, to give that same feeling to his other wives. Meri feels that Kody never ever accepted her as she was, and that's why she eventually left him in 2022. As per her, he had more or less avoided talking to her for 12 to 14 years, perhaps even more, out of their 35-year relationship. Sister Wives just concluded another soap opera season. The last episodes of season 19, focusing on Garrison Brown's untimely death, brought many viewers to tears. But for once, fans were able to watch the episodes live. Kody Brown has a habit of glossing the surface and dodging the difficult talk, and that's why these tell-alls receive so much backlash. But this season, the host was able to get the family to spill some actual tea in part 1, and it was refreshingly surprising. Kody himself acknowledged that the Sister Wives season 19 tell-all slapped him. And trust us, it's difficult not to love it when Kody launches into those long, exaggerated rants. This first reveal was no exception. Kody took a full-on shot at trying to regain the hearts of Sister Wives fans. He wasn't happy that Suki had the mobility to push him for actual answers, but viewers enjoyed watching her coax the polygamous father into being more open. When the host initially questioned Kody about his clear favoritism for one wife, reminding him that he was supposed to love them all equally, Kody barked back. Clearly agitated, he informed her, "Try it. Each one of your kids is different with you. Each one of your friends is different with you. Individuals have different interests, different methods of being fulfilled, and so forth. And then everyone just pounds you into the ground for experiencing a greater love." The drama? Absolutely, completely overboard. Kody continued, "My relationship with Robyn is something divine, and we've been punished for it. I want peace within this relationship. I love this woman, but I'm tired of being blamed for loving Robyn, like I'm out here pilfering something." On the other hand, during part 1 of the tell-all interview, Meri Brown publicly taunted Kody's so-called divine love. Fortunately, both Meri and Janelle weren't taking his emotional hype seriously. To be specific, they even joked about it. Janelle mocked, "Would have been nice if he had told me that back then." Suki reminded them of Kody's earlier assertion that he had wanted to bring up each wife to the level of love that he had with Robyn. To which she asked, "Isn't that another case of revisionist history?" Now Kody claims, "Well, I tried. I wanted to. But they wouldn't come with me." Once she heard that, Janelle informed the cameras Kody never tried to elevate her. "He never even mentioned it," she said. Meri felt the same way. "That's just not right for him to say," the single mom informed the show. "Like we're all going to turn into Robyn. I'm Meri, and I apologize. I will not be like Robyn." "I want to be my own person," Meri declared firmly. When the host asked if Kody had ever really been able to love her the way he loves Robyn, she replied in a simple yet weighty way, "I don't want to be her. Only if he accepted me as Meri." And he didn't. In her own words, Meri penned, "For the last 12, maybe even 14 years, possibly more, he just didn't." For codifying all the ways in which Kody has embarrassed his 4 wives, it is difficult to narrow down. But this time around, Kody Brown followed a different path. She admitted to feeling embarrassed, not by Kody, but by what she did during her marriage with him. The 6-time mother spoke out on the Sister Wives premiere, regretting that she had prioritized Kody's needs at the expense of her own for so long. "It's a weird and humiliating thing to say," she whispered, but spoke clearly. "But Kody's desires, his needs, and the family's, totally consumed my life." She thinks she might have fixated on him. Kody explained how even when he wasn't physically present, she was always planning, "Okay, when he gets here, we're going to do this and this and that." But Kody didn't exactly adapt to their lives. Instead, they had to change theirs to fit him in. "That's not acceptable," Kody said. "It's just unfair." Now followers are anxiously waiting for part 2 of the tell-all, particularly to find out where Kody's disclosures take us. The lifestyle had obviously become exhausting for her. Everything was about him, she revealed, and everything changed when a new woman joined the mix. Kody's entire attitude shifted. His eyes twinkled when she was around. His tone softened. He started gazing at her as if she were the center of an entire new universe. Although he'd been a member of prior unions, this was different, like he now believed he'd found an actual soulmate. To many, particularly those who'd been along for the ride with him for decades, it felt like betrayal, baffling, excruciating. One of the women who had been there since day one was among those shoved to the sidelines emotionally. She had confided in her as a child, her dreams, her great longing for something holy and enduring. But her name wasn't easy. Her history couldn't be erased. She couldn't transform into a replica of someone else's vision. Yet she was supposed to be remade into a shape someone else had formed. Fashioned in imitation of a woman she was never supposed to become. Under the cringe-worthy glow of the tell-all stage, Kody sat opposite the host and became vulnerable for one moment, though not everyone was charmed by it. He owned up to the fact that having fallen in love with Robyn had transformed him completely. There was something in that relationship he'd never felt before. He said he wanted to share that type of love, that type of connection, with all of his wives. He said it was so profound, so overwhelming, that he wished every woman in his house and in his heart could feel it as well. But for those women who'd stood alongside him, borne children with him, and suffered heartbreak for years, his words lacked warmth. They didn't ring generous. One of them released a sharp laugh. It wasn't laughter, it was incredulity. Not once during all their mutual years had he ever spoken to her like that. Not in hushed tones at night, not during life's hushed moments. And now, on national television, he says it? She shook her head and grumbled that this rendition of history, written so poetically, was a convenient rewriting, an effort to brush years of silence under the carpet with a few soft words. And then another voice, quieter, stronger, steadier. This woman had clung to the hope of reconciliation for years, even in emotional exile. But now her eyes told something else. They bore determination. A new line had been drawn. She leaned in closer, her tone low but even, and said bluntly that what Kody was saying wasn't right. "Ah, that stung," she replied, her words shaking with conviction. "It wasn't careless, it wiped out so much." "What are we supposed to be?" she demanded. "Different iterations of her?" She reminded the audience, and him, that she had a name, a soul, and a narrative of her own. She didn't want to imitate someone else's being. "Beautiful if that's who you love," she carefully added, "but don't act as if that was what you wanted from all of the rest of us. Because it wasn't." When the host ever so slightly raised the question of if love within a complicated marriage, such as this, could ever be equal but separate, the discussion became deeper. It seemed that that nagging question revealed a truth that had long been concealed. These women had each of them come to understand, some incrementally, others all at once, that love without purpose breaks, it warps, distorts, and twists, because one woman's journey can't replicate another's. And chemistry, it can't be replicated, it can't be given, and it sure as hell can't be copied. That strange, relentless flame? It surprised him. The connection he felt for the new addition to the family was not something he had in mind. It engulfed him. Rather than letting it be present quietly as one to be cherished, he made it a benchmark, an emotional standard. And from there the rest, who had already been tested and tried by decades of commitment, sacrifice, and devotion, suddenly faced an impossible yardstick they didn't agree to. As he basked in the highlighter of this new fixation, the rest were slowly consumed by the shadows of comparison. A woman who had spent decades feeling alone before she finally found the strength to leave spoke a decades-long pain behind closed lips. She used to think that silence was a sign of loyalty, but today she named it what it was: invisibility. "You treated me like an echo," she said. "You never really saw me, not the true me, and I spent years trying to get what was already rightfully mine." That one moment had stuck with viewers, days and even weeks after the reunion special. It wasn't unexpected, but painfully familiar. Too many had seen it before, a woman transforming herself repeatedly, trying to reclaim a heart that was already someone else's. But it was greater than a story of love on one side. What made it rough, what made it real, was the unspoken bravery of being yourself, as opposed to becoming somebody else's reflection. This wasn't a story of jealousy, not the kind in the classic sense. And far from being a story of betrayal, it was a story about awakening. A woman, and many are like her, growing to realize that letting go of someone who only wants pieces of you is an act of ultimate love. And so when she left, she did not depart with resentment. She didn't leave because she needed to alter herself. She didn't fight for love that should be freely offered. And she didn't quiet herself just to give space for someone else's story. "I am not her," she declared firmly, standing tall, alone, but not intimidated. "I never will be. And that is my strength." As Sister Wives concluded another tumultuous season, viewers were left not with solutions, but with questions. Questions that lingered in the air from minute to minute. Where the fans expected resolution, they were given something deeper: tension, truth-telling, and revelations that reopened the vulnerable spaces and redrew the lines of what family was in this fractured unit. At the center of it all, the patriarch stood, again under the spotlight of truth. For years, the cracks had been covered over by lengthy rationalizations. But now, what had long festered in the shadows erupted onto the surface. He fought to maintain a grip on a story quickly slipping from his grasp. The same man known for his aggressive speeches and roundabout diatribes returned to the reunion with his usual passion. But something was different this time, something that audiences picked up on. This was not a chance to say sorry. This was a reckoning. What followed the sensation of a season finale was closer to an emotional autopsy, an interrogation of a year of loss, deception, and discovery. With the moderator now allowed to probe deeper into the well-practiced answers, the atmosphere completely changed. For the man who used to be able to indulge in the emotional intimacy of 4 wives, this wasn't a sanctuary. This was a test of fire. When challenged over the glaring disparity of his affections, Kody erupted with rage. He pushed aside the charge, maintaining that relationships, such as with friends or children, naturally come in varying degrees of closeness. He attempted to protect himself with terms such as divine connection, putting one wife on a spiritual pedestal while the burden of his contradictions kept pulling him down. At last, the frustration overflowed. His tone increased in indignation as he bellowed that he was sick of being judged for loving the woman who, he claimed, brought him peace. But it wasn't his speech. It was the faces of those who had stood behind him, open-souled, arms uncrossed, bound together by struggle and belief. And in the middle of them stood a woman, years spent, years endured, her voice firm, her face unchanging. She hadn't signed up to race, and she never would. "I am not her," she said, with pride pulled taut, but not with anger. She did not speak in anger, but resolve. "I don't want to become somebody else just to be seen." She did not spit venom in what she said, only closure. It was the unmistakable tone of a woman who grieved the absence of a love that never returned. She had yearned for acceptance, not transformation. But what she got instead were excuses disguised as explanations for neglect. Most of their time together she'd lived in invisibility, disappearing into the background, as if. And now, in the clarity that attends having survived emotional exile, she shared that reality, not in rage, but in freedom. That they'd ever been ushered into some kind of higher class of love? It was quickly dispelled by another woman, somebody who'd weathered years of shifting sands and fickle passion. "It would have been great if he'd told me that then." "Not now," she teased, getting straight to the point. Her comment presumed what most believed. His last-minute about-face wasn't epiphany. It was a grasp at whitewash for an afterlife marked by selective fondness. Her comment exposed a flaw that couldn't be fixed with hindsight words. Third was a third woman, once praised for her warmth and once for her fortitude in devotion. This. She came into the conversation with reflection instead of bitterness. She shared something very personal, her attention once centered fully on him. Her voice was trembling, not with vulnerability, but with the courage it required to admit a hard reality, that a man who never lived up to her devotion had subtly taken her identity. Even when he was not present, her calendar orbited around him. She planned, waiting for him. Her attention once centered fully on him. She put her own growth on hold, waiting for his return. And now, she called it what it was, sacrifice masquerading as control, not love. She recognized just how draining that life had been. Her eyes, previously set on him, now longed for something very different. Peace, her children, herself. No longer in need of his approval, she'd taken what always was hers. All of these stories didn't stand on their own. They were tangled strands of the same unraveling. What had appeared to be a tapestry of respect and shared mission was, in fact, a patchwork held together by the emotional contradictions of one man. And the toughest truth? He never really saw them. Not as they were. This reunion wasn't an ending, it was a mirror, reflecting back the hurt, the strength, and the transformation. It forced fans to ask bigger questions. Can one say that they love many the same, and just one person gets to sign the bill? Can a shared dream live when one person overwrites the script in their own name? As the clock ticked down to its final moments, the tension wasn't about what was coming next. It stemmed from what had finally been left behind. The illusions had collapsed. What once had been unconquerable loyalty had been melted and molded into crystal clear fact. And all the women departed not without specters of who they ought to have been, but they had a voice, finally their own. Even if the family doesn't look as it used to, the early strength, development, and honesty that were born in its collapse made themselves heard above any coiffed conclusion ever could. Thanks for watching Reality Recap. Don't forget to subscribe and give a thumbs up to this video. For more updates daily, see you